Welcome back to Crypto Fitness. I'm Jay. Richard Hart has announced some badass updates in regards to PulseX, Pulse Chain, and we're gonna cover a lot of them in this video. So watch to the very end so that you make sure that you get all of the information in the updates that he drops. Jump in.
How's it going, everyone? Richard Hart here. Been a while since I've streamed. What do we got going on? Good progress on Pulse Chain and PulseX. Had a call with the devs, and PulseX is basically done.
PulseX is basically done. One of the biggest challenges that Richard Hart and devs were facing was to get the AMM bot to working properly so that the liquidity pairs, when they fork over from Uniswap, SushiSwap, and PancakeSwap, are accurate. And one of the biggest hurdles was specifically with Uniswap v3 because there's a lot more technical aspect to v3 than there is Uniswap v2. But it sounds like they're getting really close to PulseX being completely finished, which is very exciting because we've been waiting for the Pulse Chain for a long time, and PulseX is going to be the most exciting and probably the greatest yield farming project that has ever come to the blockchain or crypto. We've never seen this much liquidity sacrificed for a decentralized exchange. On top of that, we've never seen a decentralized exchange token that is truly deflationary.
Can't wait to see. That looks like, I mean, they've got it pretty up the front end. There's a lot of cool stuff they built that you don't realize matters, right? You want the stats to work right, and you want the stats to show the right numbers. So in addition to just front end for PulseX, which is a Uniswap fork, you also need the info site that shows all the pairs and all the APYs and all that. Pulse Chain, we're going to release a v2.5 testnet with sacrifice balances and the AMM bot run halfway on the ones that are already done. So the AMM bot's done for like Uniswap v2, SushiSwap, and then we can have people testing the stuff earlier. If any mistakes or bugs are going to get found, we can find them earlier. And so instead of waiting for perfect sacrifice balances and perfect AMM bot, we're going to release v2.5 quicker. Might be called 2B or 2.5. I hope it's not called 3 because people are so excited for 3 having complete AMM.
So that is a very interesting piece of news. So instead of releasing Testnet v3, they're going to do a Testnet 2.5 or a Testnet 2B. So what he's saying is that people know that Testnet v3 pretty much means that mainnet's right around the corner. So before shocking everybody and saying that Testnet v3 is going to come out, which could create all sorts of game theory, he's doing a version 2.5 to make sure that we as a community can test the AMM Fixer Bot before they go to version 3, because at version 3, what he's saying is that Testnet v3 pretty much is a AMM Fixer Bot that's 100% working, there's no flaws and no bugs in it.
So what else is going on? Yeah, I think the solution, I was showing you guys some of the math that goes into how much the automated market maker price fixer bot should invest in purchasing up the PRC20s. I think the best edge detection is to 1000x the bid. And so whatever the equivalent amount of Ethereum is on the bid currently, you would just 1000x that in Pulse that's minted. It should still be quite low. It should be around 2.25% of supply. My original estimate was around 5 or 6% of supply. And so I can't wait to see like what the final numbers look like once that bot's run.
So this is why he's doing Testnet v2.5. He wants to test these ratios, make sure that these liquidity pairs and the Pulse to Ethereum ratios, the AMM Fixer Bot is performing its function the right way. And he may need to adjust those numbers. Maybe the 1000x on the Pulse side, maybe it's not 1000x, maybe it's 2000 or 1.5 So that's the whole point of the v2.5 testnet, is to make sure that we can test these settings and find the right ratio so that when mainnet goes live, people aren't getting screwed.
Now the devs just get to run their own versions of this using a program called Hardhat, where you can emulate system state and then fiddle with it. It's a really cool Ethereum tool. I don't have my own local Hardhat to play with these numbers. Also, so we're trying to release that within the next week, the version 2B or 2.5. I'll call it 2.5. We're trying to release within the next week version 2.5 of the testnet.
Wow, so version 2.5 testnet in the next week, hopefully. No expectations of profit from the work of others, but hopefully.
Not sure it's going to be called 2.5 though, because we use a canonical like faucet.v2.pulsechain.com. Like there's a very specific canonical naming convention that we're using. I don't know if 2.5 would break that, so you might use 2B. We'll see. Oh, and by the way, on the sacrifices, I think where we're going to end up, or at least the best thinking as to where we'll end up on those, is that if you sacrifice coins that you should have, well then those will be credited as we've talked about. Nothing exciting there. But if you sacrifice stuff that you shouldn't have and it was dumped for stables, then you'll just get the value it was dumped for. And that should catch a lot of these stupid coins that have taxes when you sell them, or coins with low liquidity. It should catch those cases.
So it sounds like he's just trying to make sure everybody's included in the sacrifice phase, and if anybody did sacrifice, he's trying to do right by everybody by making sure everyone's credited the right amount of tokens.
So that should handle just about everybody. Don't know what to do with all the guys that have been hacked. It's unfortunate. That's still a hard one. It's still in my mind. I haven't come up with a solution for that yet, guys. Don't get hacked. Don't give out your seed words to people. Don't give out your private keys to people. Don't connect to weird websites. Don't connect to fake websites. Don't fall for fake admins. Don't fall for people that direct message you. Anyone that direct message you is trying to scam you. Don't fall for fake giveaways. Don't fall for fake live streams that have a fake giveaway wrapped around the restreaming of a real live stream. Please, thank you.
And on that note, I agree with everything Richard just said there. And specifically, if you're new to crypto, I did an interview with Papa Boner, who is our security specialist in the HEX community. He's been in the security space for about 25 years, dating back to the Snowden days. So if you want to watch my interview on the best strategy to protect your crypto assets, then check out this video right here.
And also learn English. It's an awesome language. It's very hard for me to help you if you don't speak English. It's very hard for anyone to help you if you don't speak English, to tell you the truth. This is complicated stuff, and it's mostly tooled and supported in English. So what else do we got? So we covered PulseX, and yeah, people ask so many silly questions. Yes, PulseX is going to be deflationary. It's not, you're never going to get a new mint of PulseX. There's going to be no inflation, only deflation.
So that confirms that PulseX will be truly deflationary. And there's been some videos and there's been some people questioning whether PulseX was truly going to be deflationary, because a few weeks ago, Richard Hart released some screenshots of some of the development of PulseX, and there was a couple phrases, a couple sentences in those screenshots that could have just been typos that made it seem like PulseX might not be deflationary. Again, confirmed by Richard Hart himself, saying that PulseX will be deflationary.
What else? No devs quit. As a matter of fact, there's new devs you don't even know about. Yes, I am working on a replacement for MetaMask. Haven't hired anybody yet, but it's on the roadmap. Just quicker on the roadmap recently. I wish I didn't have to build everything, right? Like I wish I didn't have to build my own nation state. But the world sucks so much that you're just like, well, if the world's going to keep sucking like this, I guess I'm just going to have to pick these things off one at a time. And then the MetaMask thing, it's not going to delay anything. It's totally parallel. There's no delays. It doesn't affect anything that we're doing on Pulse Chain, PulseX, HEX, any of these things.
Very interesting. So there are plans to create his own wallet on the Pulse Chain. Maybe a fork of MetaMask. Who knows? Maybe he'll build it from scratch. But there does seem to be a plan in place, and he plans on hiring some developers. In fact, I've seen some tweets saying that he's hiring developers right now.
Cardano sac sheet. Yeah, I know. Get it out there. I mean, we're really aiming to release the sacrifice sheets this week and to release version 2.5 this week of Testnet. Pretty decently run AMM and SAC balances. Will there be a token associated with the MetaMask project? Will there be a sacrifice for it? I don't know, probably, but once again, not gonna have anything. I want to get the things that we already have in the pipeline done and out. I do not want more coins. I do not want more tokens. I do not want more sacrifices. I want what we already have out and released into the wild. That's what I want. You don't have to think about that or worry about that for months. Pulse and PulseX will be out long before. That's a thought.
So sounds iffy on that. Maybe he does a coin and a sacrifice phase for the wallet, but seems like 50-50. It seems like he doesn't really know what he wants to do with that yet. And I agree, he needs to make sure that he's focusing on PulseX and Pulse Chain first, make sure those are flawless before he even thinks about working on a wallet and making a coin or sacrifice phase for that too. But interesting, could be a little tidbit for down the road. If you missed on PulseX and Pulse Chain sacrifice phases, maybe there's another one down the road.
Wish it was easier to buy on different exchanges. Just buy Ethereum and swap on chain, bro. You're gonna get a better deal. If it was on other exchanges, when those exchanges got hacked, as we've seen, like Bitmark got hacked, and then boom, 12 million hex gets stolen. Sucks, man. Sucks. So, it's nice that you can just buy Ethereum, use Ethereum. And look, when Pulse Chain's out, the calculus is a little bit different. You are going to want to be able to directly buy that someplace. That's going to be nice. Let's get that mainnet out, right? I mean, we're so close. Like, so close.
Again, Richard Hart himself saying we are so close. So close. I know there's been some speculation of when Pulse Chain will launch. I know Alexander Lorenzo did a video recently, and he speculated that Pulse Chain wouldn't launch until September or October of 2023. So I thought that was an interesting take. He claimed to have some evidence showing and explaining why he feels that way. But from Richard Hart, it sounds like it's like right around the corner. It sounds like it's within the next couple months.
The snapshot for PulseX happened already? No. I mean, first, I don't even know what you mean. Like, what snapshot for PulseX? Pulse Chain has a snapshot. That's the thing, is people don't know what to call it. Some people get angry when you call it a snapshot. They call it a fork. I'm okay with either term. They're both kind of applicable. This new testnet will have a much more recent, maybe only a few days old snapshot. The existing testnet is a many months old snapshot. What I mean by deflationary, it means that new PulseX will never be brought into existence, and existing PulseX can be destroyed.
Interesting statement that he said there. Did you catch that? He said new PulseX will never be brought into existence, and existing PulseX can be destroyed. Can is the key word there, because no expectations of profit from the work of others. And there have been rumors going around that there could be a bird that goes around, buys up the PulseX token, and burns it. Not for sure. That's just a whispering that it could happen. So it's an interesting key phrase there. He said that it can be burned.
Can you explain what the 3.69% inflation is, please? Yes. Since the entire circulating supply or unstaked supply of HEX is like 650 billion, you multiply that by 0.0369, and that's the amount of inflation that is credited to stakers over the course of the year. And because only about 10% of supply is staked, it makes the average APY about 37 or 40%.
So again, Richard Hart confirming that about 10% of the total HEX supply has been staked. When he says 10% of the total supply is staked, that doesn't account for the OA address and how much HEX the OA and daughter wallets hold. So depending on how you look at it, if you subtract the OA wallet and the daughter wallets from the total supply, that would obviously make the amount of HEX that's staked out of the total supply. It would be a lot higher if you don't include the OA address and the daughter wallets as well. For whatever reason, people just have the hardest time understanding the 3.69 inflation. Look, Bitcoin and Ethereum also mint inflation. It pays the miners inflation. What happens is it creates a negative externality. What that means is that when the miners mint their rewards for computing the blocks on Bitcoin and Ethereum blockchain, they get paid directly in Ethereum and Bitcoin when they do that, every time they complete a block. What happens though is they have overhead costs because they're proof of work. They have rigs they have to pay for, new mining equipment, and they have to pay for electricity. And so what happens is they get that Ethereum or that Bitcoin and they sell it. There creates a negative selling pressure because they have to sell that to pay for their overhead costs. And actually the same thing is going on with Cardano right now. With the ISPOs, you have a lot of these big projects who are currently have a staking pool. Even though Cardano's proof of stake, they're still getting this negative externality. These big projects, they have their own staking pool or multiple staking pools. And what happens is they attract people's liquidity to mine the Cardano blockchain, but then they get paid in Cardano for those block rewards. But what happens is they have their own projects on the Cardano blockchain that they are building and they are focusing on. So when they get paid those Cardano rewards, even though it's proof of stake and not proof of work, it's more energy efficient, it's more green, but you still get this negative externality where you have these projects now, instead of miners, you have these big projects that have mining pools. When they get paid the inflation in the form of Cardano, they then sell that to pay for their project. So it's creating another negative externality. That's what's going on with Cardano right now. HEX does not have that negative externality because what happens is your HEX is locked up for however long you agreed to stake your HEX for. And if it's staked for 15 years, a Quattro Cinco, a 5555 stake, you can't access that minting, the rewards for that 15 years unless you pay penalties. You get your principal back after half the time. And if you emergency end stake, then those fees, the penalties that you pay, go into the staking pool, and the other stakers in the pool who are committed and keeping their word, they get to reap that reward. That is why HEX is such a revolutionary technology, and people just have the hardest time understanding that concept for whatever reason. But it's really simple if you think about it.
Show the diamonds. I haven't received the giant big diamond yet because I also haven't finished paying for it yet. I've paid for the vast majority of it, but because banks suck, taking time to pay the rest. It's very silly. That, by the way, is part of the reason why cryptocurrency is so good, because it solves that problem.
I can't wait until he has that diamond sitting right behind him, like on the desk or something. It's going to be so cool.
Everybody curious, like HEX has dipped 70%, like 7 times or something. It's in the game. Everybody that you know that got like 1,000,000% or 500,000% or 50% returns, they sat through some really big dips. That's how it is, which is why it's written right on the site. The site will tell you straight up, cryptocurrencies dip 85, 95%, some of them, and some of them go on and make new all-time highs. And that's what HEX has continued to do. What are my thoughts on a centralized exchange earn or lend feature? Not your keys, not your coins, not your vault, not your gold. Wait till you find out about the counterparty risk of begging for your own money. That's what cryptocurrency was invented to get rid of. And every single time you give your coins, your keys to somebody else and have to beg, a lot of people lose a lot of millions that way. Well, I don't want to make this a long one, guys. I covered the best things. Go to hex.com, go to pulsechain.com. Try out the testnet. Think about what you're going to do when the mainnet launches. Are you going to swap your Ethereum hex for Pulse hex? Are you going to liquidity farm the E-hex, P-hex pair, which isn't called P-hex, it's just called hex? There's a lot of interesting game theory going on. Get in the chats. You know, all you guys that are asking for support happens in the chats. Just avoid the imposters, avoid the scammers that are going to direct message you. But that's where the support happens. Pulse Chain, PulseChain.com on Telegram, t.me/PulseChain.com, t.me/hexcrypto, t.me/PulseXcom. Richard Hart Win on Twitter.
So very interesting update that we have for Richard Hart. He obviously confirmed Testnet 2B should be coming out in the next week or so, as well as being able to test a lot of the features on the upcoming PulseX launch. He also verified PulseX will be truly deflationary, as well as several other pieces of bullish news. So if you enjoy the quality of this content and you'd like to support the Crypto Fitness channel, you can do so by minting a Beast Bro NFT. You can also tip any amount of Hex, Cardano, Ethereum, Bitcoin, or USD. Links are down into the description. And check out this video where I show you how you can turn $100 into almost $3 million with the Hex Ladder Snowball. And that's it for me. I'm out. Stay savage.